Debate. Right now, we're going to bring in Mara Gillespie, founder and principal at Blue Stack Strategies. She's a former advisor to House Speaker John Boehner and to one-time Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger, a Republican who endorsed President Biden earlier this week, by the way. Okay, Mara, first of all, do you have an ear inside the DNC short call note meeting, or will you answer based on your experience? So here's the question. And let us know where you're coming from. What will likely be discussed in this meeting, and who's on the call?
So for one, just to be clear, my former boss, Congressman Kinzinger, he endorsed Biden for president. I just want to make sure that I did not endorse anyone for president. But no, I will not be on this call or have insight to it. I do think that it's interesting that they are now panicking when this has long been kind of a known thing. When Joe Biden ran for office in 2020, he was older then. So it's not a surprise that he is older now. That's how time works. So I just think it's interesting that this panic is now set in because of what they should have already known. If they've been preparing for this debate, which they asked for over a week, what was being done in preparation for it? I think it's actually a little bit cruel to not recognize the state of things. I think both candidates have clearly displayed cognitive declines, and we're just supposed to pretend as if this is the best we have to offer. It's not. So I do think it's incumbent upon both the candidates, but especially in the Biden camp, to really assess, is this worth it? Is this, if your service is because of you believe in public service and it's for your legacy and all those things, it's important that you put the country before yourself. So in this moment, I think it's time for him to do that.
Okay, so we're focusing on Biden. I heard your assessment of the former president as well, that there should be perhaps some consideration on that end. But we're going to stick with Biden for the sake of this particular conversation, not dismissing that. Sure. But so how much time does the DNC have to shore up support for President Biden or devise a different path forward? And is there a knee-jerk element to this?
There isn't a knee-jerk element to this, but they should have already been in planning mode. You know, Arthel, we talked 2 weekends ago, and I told you that I had
Hold on, no, hold on for that. Hold on, because I queued that up, and we're going to play that.
Oh, okay.
So hold on for that. Continue, just not with that.
Sure. So I do think they should have already planned for this. They should have already been in preparation, and I do think they have been. I think that they've been scouting other potential opportunities and how to do it, looking at the rules of the convention come August. I think they're really looking at how do they do this. And this call today, I assume for the DNC, is to really formulate that plan and announce it to their members to see kind of what the feedback is.
So I want to play some sound, not ours yet, but this is what Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York told Anderson Cooper, who did not, by the way, moderate. Let's listen.
But let's have another debate where actually the moderators will push back on Donald Trump's lies. He intimidated your network, unfortunately, and there was no pushback. He was given free rein to just lie as much as he wants. And that's not helpful to the American public either.
So should there be a second Biden-Trump debate?
I don't know that we as a country are going to benefit from it because they didn't talk about anything future looking. And to the congressman's point, you know, on Twitter or X or whatever it may be, they have these reader's notes. So I don't understand why there couldn't have been some sort of, you know, fact checking in real time below the screen. I understand that the host, the moderators didn't want to interrupt the conversation, and I think that's a fair point. But they could have done some fact checking on both sides because both President Biden and former President Trump were spewing some lies there and being, you know, inaccurate. And people who tuned in for maybe 10, 15 minutes, that's what they saw. And not to have that checked in real time is a disservice to voters.
Who was most inaccurate?
Well, former President Trump, I mean, he goes so fervently and so quickly, it's hard to keep up. I mean, there are so many times that Biden could have pounced on things that he said, but he just really couldn't keep up with him. And again, I think it's a disservice to us as voters that we don't have a real-time fact check, because for CNN to do it after the fact, when people have already gone to bed because this debate was late at night, that's not helpful to anyone.
So as I mentioned, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden, they are fundraising today. So how much and who's making the donations at this point? Tell us about Biden's support.
Largely, this is to show people he is still in this race and to show that he is moving beyond the debate and trying to put a good foot forward. I understand the strategy there, but again, I think that the amount of cleanup that needs to be done is insurmountable. And so the donors that he's looking at, high dollar donors, celebrity donors, that's, you know, I think the Hamptons trip is reflective of that. But again, I think it's just simply to show that he is still in this race. But you know, as I said earlier, I don't know that the people who are propping him up are doing it for the good of the country as opposed to to that for themselves. And that's a shame.
So I now want to play a portion of our interview from 2 weeks ago. Let's listen. Do you expect either candidate to drop out of the race?
Part of me still does believe that Joe Biden is not actually going to be the candidate. I have kind of long believed that in August he will let the party know that he is not up for another 4 years of this job. It's not good for him, his health, or for the country, or for the party.
Do you still feel the same way?
Absolutely. Being president is a grueling job. The schedule is robust, and that's putting it lightly. And I just don't see how he gets there confidently able to do it for another 4 years. I just don't see it happening.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, there are many Americans who don't want to see either of these candidates there on the ballot. So do you expect any changes on the Republican side? You also have the former president who is aging as well. So do you think, though, that Mr. Trump, the former president, will remain the presidential nominee for the Republican Party?
I believe he will. I think in this election, especially if both Trump and Biden do somehow stay in it, the vice president pick and us as voters will have to look at that more closely than we ever have before. It'll become more important because of the fact that their age is up there, because of the fact that they've both shown cognitive declines. So we're really going to have to assess the vice president position more than we probably ever have before. So, I don't see Trump backing down. I think he enjoys this spotlight. But again, it's still going to be taxing on him 4 years later and going through these next 4 years should he win again. So it's just something that he should be considering as well. And the party needs to look beyond this moment because it's not a good reflection for us. But the debate on Thursday, if anything, Republicans who have been holding out on Trump, they may hold their nose and vote for him because the alternative is just unthinkable now.
Lastly, what if the former president attaches Nikki Haley as his VP candidate?
I would be very surprised, but I think that could change some things for people who see her as a responsible adult in the room. Some obviously disagree with her, but the reality is that you're never going to find a candidate that you agree with 100% of the way. If you can find somebody that you're 75% of the way there with, you're probably doing pretty well.
Well, listen, we've got a short time to see what's going to happen, so I'm sure you and I will be speaking again soon. Appreciate your perspective as always. Maura Gillespie, thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks for having me.